They called it a clerical error. The extermination of 5 million humans on New Thessalonica, erased in a precision orbital strike sanctioned by a bureaucratic rubber stamp, was dismissed in 2 sentences by the Galactic Concord. Unauthorized settlement. Biological risk, non-compliance. The report was signed, filed, and forgotten. Earth didn't respond. At the time, humanity was new to the stars, cautiously optimistic, eager to prove it belonged among elder species that had ruled the galactic stage for millennia. They shared medicine, terraforming breakthroughs, linguistic models. They bent over backward to comply with Concord protocols, even when they made no sense. They dismantled old war machines, integrated AI into peacekeeping coalitions, trained diplomats in 20 alien dialects. None of it mattered. The Fexery Empire, one of the founding Concord members, had always viewed humanity with suspicion, primitives who'd ascended too fast. Their aristocrats found humanity's adaptability offensive, their persistence unsettling. The humans didn't kneel. They didn't assimilate. They cooperated, but never submitted. New Thessalonica was humanity's showpiece, a joint habitat with alien and human citizens, designed to be a model for cultural integration. When the Fexery claimed it violated genetic compliance statutes, laws so vague they could apply to pollen in the air, it was a paper-thin pretext. No trial, no appeal. The attack came at dawn. Surveillance feeds captured it all. Civilian homes lit from above by silent bursts of fusion light. Children reduced to shadows, scorched into stone. Automated defenses overridden remotely by Concord backdoors. Systems humanity had been required to install as a term of membership. The footage leaked. For 2 days, the galactic net was ablaze with horror, disbelief, anger. And then, silence. No sanctions. No tribunal. The Concord moved on. Earth did not. The Terran delegation was recalled within the week. No statements were made. Human trade networks went dark. Embassies shuttered. Embargoes lifted unilaterally. Partnerships voided without explanation. Humanity unplugged itself from the galaxy without firing a shot. Alien media speculated on internal unrest. Perhaps Earth is grieving, some said. Perhaps they fear retaliation. The Fexery dismissed the silence. The humans bark, but they will learn obedience, one noble declared during a session of the High Council. But on the outer edge of the Sol system, listening posts caught a transmission from an unregistered Terran channel. Just 5 words, spoken in unaccented galactic standard. "We are not like you." The message was ignored. The galaxy had seen defiance before. Small empires, rebellious coalitions, rogue AI enclaves, all crushed in due time. But then came the disappearances. First, it was a Fexery scout vessel on patrol near the Perseus Arm. No distress call, no debris. A week later, a trade convoy vanished mid-jump, last seen near the Oort boundary. Then an entire surveillance array went dark, just gone. The Concord assumed pirates, black holes, navigation failures. They didn't notice the patterns, but the Fexery did. They filed a formal inquiry with Earth. No reply. They sent a delegation ship. It never arrived. 2 months later, a leaked internal memo from Fexery High Command referenced a growing list of unexplained hostilities and recommended increased military readiness near Terran space. Still, no one acted, until one last message was broadcast galaxy-wide from an anonymous Terran relay, this time longer. The voice was calm, measured, human. "We tried being civilized. We joined your councils, followed your rules. We watched our people burn while you debated terminology. You showed us what peace means to the powerful. Now you will learn what war means to the patient." No threat, no declaration, just facts. In the galactic core, the Concord assembled to debate the implications. Some dismissed it as posturing. Others worried. The Fexery, insulted by the implication that a mere Terran threat held weight, demanded the Concord issue a unified warning. That, too, was debated. Meanwhile, Earth stayed silent. And on forgotten edges of space, humanity began to move. The stars around Sol went dark. No signals, no travel logs, no diplomatic chatter, just silence, A deliberate vacuum. Ships that approached Terran borders turned back on instinct. Something unseen watched them, tracked every ion pulse, measured every deviation. They felt it before they knew it. The humans were preparing. But for what? Within Earth's former embassies, alien staff found themselves quietly escorted out. No force, no violence, just firm, coordinated shutdowns. Terran representatives who once smiled across negotiation tables now refused all contact. Even their most vocal advocates were met with cold eyes and closed doors. Not a threat, not yet, but a signal. Humanity had stopped listening. Across the galaxy, rumors spread like radiation. Shipyards once mothballed during peace treaties now lit up across the outer colonies. Civilian dry docks converted overnight. Cargo haulers retrofitted with military-grade shielding. Engineers vanished from corporate roles, quietly reassigned. AI cores once bound by Concord ethical frameworks were cut loose, rerouted into Terran-controlled blacknets. Whatever Earth was building, they weren't advertising it. The Fexery dismissed it as theater. They lacked the numbers. They lacked the discipline. The Concord keeps the balance, a Fexery general declared. Let them hiss in their cage. But others watched with unease. The Canary, long allies of peace, pulled their delegations back from Terran space, whispering to each other about old Terran records. The Rolnani recalled faint stories, unverified, of the last Earth War, where humans nearly extinguished themselves and still clawed back to dominance. Their survival was not a miracle. It was a habit. Then came the breach. A Fexery listening post drifted too close to Terran territory. Protocol dictated a warning transmission. Instead, the ship found its systems locked, externally, and its memory wiped mid-transit. When recovered, the crew remembered nothing after crossing the threshold. Their onboard AI had been reformatted. One entry remained. A single audio file repeating on loop. We were quiet. You taught us why we shouldn't be. The Fexery responded with posturing, fleet deployments, system-wide patrols, public condemnations. They declared human silence an act of hostility, demanded immediate Concord intervention. But intervention required consensus, and consensus required unity. The Concord, fractured and bloated, debated while Terran space transformed into an opaque fortress. A second leak hit the galactic net. This time a compressed data packet intercepted from deep space. Origin, Sol system. Content, construction schematics. Thousands of them. Hulls, carriers, vessels no one had ever seen before. Modular, adaptive, heavily shielded. Systems unbound by Concord regulations. Warforms that were more machine than crew. Automated logistics chains that spanned multiple systems. Power signatures measured in absurd scales. These weren't retrofits. These were blueprints for extinction. The Fexery doubled their border presence. They issued an ultimatum to the Concord. Declare Earth in violation of peace, or the Fexery would act unilaterally. The Concord stalled. Terran broadcasts returned, short, encrypted, but unmistakably human. No demands, no posturing, just observations. You govern by fear. We submitted by choice. You taught us the limits of peace. Now we redefine it. It was not war yet, but it had ceased to be peace. Deep within Concord data archives, analysts began revisiting early contact records. How quickly humans learned alien languages. How fast they adapted to exoplanet conditions. How instinctively they negotiated, reverse-engineered, mimicked. They had absorbed everything. Cultures, technologies, strategies. Not to conform, to prepare. Then a name surfaced, unremarkable at first, Project Echofall. A black-budget Terran initiative predating Concord membership. Officially decommissioned. Secretly reactivated the day New Thessalonica burned. The file was sparse, but one phrase stood out, designed not to win war. Designed to end it. Panic took root, not in the Fexery, but in quieter species. They knew what was coming. The Fexery had woken something that had chosen not to speak. Now it was listening, learning, arming. And humanity never did anything halfway. It began without fanfare. 3 Fexery sectors went silent within 19 minutes. Not disrupted, erased. Communication relays severed. Defense networks disabled. Orbital stations torn open from the inside, their command systems hijacked before the crew could react. Entire fleets vanished from long-range scans. By the time Concord observers dispatched recon probes, they found nothing but drifting debris and encrypted human signatures pulsing through the wreckage. There was no declaration, no manifesto, just the unmistakable arrival of Terran war doctrine, precision, asymmetry, and finality. The first recorded encounter detailed a Fexery command cruiser disabled without damage to its hull. Its crew found unconscious, weapons offline, data cores melted. Left behind on the bridge, a synthetic voice loop. First lesson: we do not need to kill to end you. The next engagement didn't offer the same restraint. A border world heavily defended by Fexery siege cannons was hit from low orbit by kinetic rods. Pure mass, no warheads, no radiation, no escape. The impact turned defensive fortresses into glass. Transmission towers were left intact long enough to relay one final message. Second lesson: you will not see us coming. When Fexery reinforcements arrived, they encountered nothing but atmospheric static and scorched terrain. Human ships were gone, having folded space mid-atmosphere, an impossible feat by Concord standards. Analysis confirmed Earth had mastered micro-jump technology in tactical scenarios. They were no longer bound by known rules of engagement. Panic spread through military circles. Concord war councils convened emergency sessions. Fexery leadership demanded retaliatory strikes, only to discover their own communications were being monitored. Entire encryption protocols had been compromised. Terran cyber warfare had evolved beyond interference. It now predicted enemy decisions in real time. Public morale fractured. Alien news networks, once dismissive, now broadcast fragments of intercepted human transmissions. Not taunts, facts. Testimonies from New Thessalonica, spliced with footage of Fexery nobles celebrating the colony's destruction. One feed featured a child's voice counting numbers over images of burned habitats. Another played the heartbeat of a survivor, synced with orbital impact logs. No propaganda, just memory, turned into weapon. Terran fleets advanced without pause, moving in silence, coordinating through quantum-linked arrays impervious to jamming. Their ships had no insignia, no declarations, only patterns of light across their hulls, signals understood only by human command AIs, patterns which changed with each engagement. One Concord analyst described it simply: they aren't fighting a war. They're executing an answer. Fexery systems began to collapse. Civilian centers went dark. Supply lines were sliced at precise points that caused cascading failures. Entire star lanes filled with decoy signals. Every pursuit led to traps. Human strike units moved in modular formations, never appearing twice in the same configuration. Some were unmanned. Some were biological hybrids. None were predictable. In desperation, the Fexery deployed their doomsday fleet, a relic of their expansionist past, forbidden by Concord law. It never reached the front. It disappeared 5 light minutes from Terran border space. No explosions, no survivors, just one final pulse on all Fexery channels. Final lesson: mercy was never weakness. After that, Fexery command structure broke. Officers turned on each other. Border planets rebelled. Refugees flooded neutral systems. Concord leadership scrambled to negotiate, but Earth refused all channels. Not out of arrogance, out of design. Their war was never meant to be talked down. One Concord envoy leaked a private memo describing Terran strategy as predatory calm. Every action, every blow measured. No overreach, no waste. Just methodical dismantling of an empire that had mistaken silence for fear. The question shifted from will humanity stop to what will they leave behind. Other empires held their breath. If the Fexery fell, who would be next? Was this retribution or warning? The galaxy watched, powerless, as the Fexery homeworld appeared in Terran targeting systems. No one had expected it to go this far. No one had understood what humanity truly was. Until now, the Fexery homeworld was defenseless before the first shot landed. Orbital rings were disabled by nanite infiltration weeks before the fleet arrived. Atmospheric shields collapsed from within, compromised by virus-coded Terran AIs masquerading as civilian maintenance drones. Military hubs received no warnings. Only silence, then impact. Human forces descended not in conquest, but in calibration. Every strike was calculated. Every target specific. They did not level cities. They severed command chains. Precision rail bursts eliminated ministers mid-speech. Communication towers detonated in synchronized silence. Tactical EMP waves erased military archives in seconds. High command, isolated in subterranean vaults, was left powerless as human squads moved through corridors with surgical efficiency. No excess, no waste. Then the broadcast began. On every Fexery frequency, civilian and military alike, humanity played the records. Unfiltered footage of New Thessalonica. Not dramatized, documented. Voices of children beneath rubble. Desperate mayday calls. Emergency protocols overridden by Concord mandates. A voiceover in Galactic Standard, neutral and cold. You called it compliance. You called it necessary. This is what we remember. Resistance collapsed not from force, but from truth. Soldiers surrendered their weapons without engagement. Civilians fled official shelters, fearing their own leaders more than their enemies. Fexery loyalists attempted to regroup in off-world colonies, only to find them already neutralized. No massacres, just command voids and supply disruptions that rendered them irrelevant. On the third planetary cycle, Earth transmitted its first and only directive. The ones who gave the order will be judged. The rest will be spared. Not for your sake, but ours. No tribunal. No negotiation. Human operatives extracted 27 names from captured systems. Every Fexery official tied to the Thessalonica cleansing. Each was located, identified, and removed, some in their sleep, some mid-command. No spectacle. No glory. Just erasure. Galactic observers expected annihilation. Instead, they witnessed restraint as sharp as any weapon. Human forces withdrew from civilian zones after their objectives were complete. Infrastructure was left intact. Hospitals supplied. Food delivered. Automated humanitarian units deployed ahead of any surviving resistance. Not to occupy, but to leave a message. We remember what you taught us. We refuse to become you. For the first time, the Concord fell silent not from indifference, but from shame. No resolutions were passed. No alliances invoked. The galaxy watched as the Fexery Empire collapsed inward. Not destroyed, disassembled. Their economy imploded, their hierarchy dismantled, their prestige nullified. They had built their dominance on fear and suffered a response that used none. Other powers took notice. Old rivalries ceased. Disputed borders calmed. Treaties once debated for decades were ratified in days. Not from diplomacy, but survival. Humanity had rewritten the rules of consequence. Every empire reevaluated its archives on Earth. Every leader re-examined prior offenses, wondering what might now count as provocation. Terran fleets did not linger. They returned to the void without ceremony. Stations re-entered stealth mode. Communications restored, filtered through AI protocols that now enforced boundary recognition with machine precision. When Concord envoys attempted to re-establish dialogue, they received only this. We tried being civilized. You buried our children in ash. We brought battle. Now we restore balance. Let this be enough. The final image broadcast across galactic channels came not from Earth, but from the ruins of a Fexery nursery, untouched, repaired, restocked. A Terran medical drone stood watch as a Fexery child slept beneath blankets marked with the sigil of New Thessalonica. That, more than any weapon, ended the war. Humanity had proved its point. They had not unleashed chaos. They had administered justice. They had not burned an empire. They had shown the galaxy the cost of impunity. And they had done it without asking for permission. No songs were sung. No monuments raised. The humans returned to their silence, their ships disappearing once again into shadow, their systems closed to all but their own. But the stars remembered, and from that day forward, every treaty in the galaxy carried an unspoken clause, etched into the minds of every species that called themselves advanced. Do not provoke the Terrans. They forgive slowly, and they forget nothing.